Hey, my friends, behind me, well, there's a lot of stuff behind me, but directly behind me here is a 2019 BMW X7. We're going to do some control arms replacements on this. They're also known as thrust arms. There's this meme out there about European suspension versus traditional American suspension, and it's not a lie. Okay, you got this really basic, really works just fine American design suspension here, and you got this European stuff that these engineers. Anyway, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a discussion on why these things go bad so often. All right, let's get to it. Before you jack your car off the ground, bust all these lug nuts loose. This is 17 millimeter. Do this both sides. All right, now with the car jacked up, in my case, I'm using the lift. Go ahead and take your impact, zip off the rest of these bolts. Do that on both sides, of course. Okay, we got to get this belly pan off here. Underneath here, there's going to be some 8 millimeter bolts. They look like this, all right? Any one of these that you see, pull it off. All right, as you can see here, there's 3 pieces to this belly pan. You want to get all 3 off. You got 2 pieces on the side and 1 main one down the center there. The process to do this is the same on both sides, so we're just going to look at the passenger side and do that one. Okay, so this is the piece that we're after here. This is the thrust arm, front control arm. All right, we're going to replace that. These bushings like to go bad and make like a clunk when you brake. This particular style is a hydraulic one. It can crack and start leaking. All right, so let's go ahead and take this plate off right here. We got some 18 millimeter bolts, 2 right here, and then 2 right here. It's going to reveal a bolt behind here. Okay, all those bolts are the same length. Right after we get that bracket off, it's going to reveal a E20 inverse Torx bolt. Okay, probably a rare tool. You might not have that. You need to get an E20 or a set with an E20 in it. You don't have to worry about the other side, even though it is a 21 millimeter nut. It's got a captive tab on it here to stop it from spinning on you, which is nice. We're going to pause here a second though, and we're going to get the ball joint out of the steering knuckle. Okay, this nut right here is 24 millimeters. Inside of it, you can see that there is a Torx bit, right, that can go in there. Torx drive, sorry. I'm going to use a T50 Torx drive and a 24 millimeter wrench using the Torx to counter hold this as we pull this nut off. Okay, right after we get that nut off, I like to put the nut actually back on a couple threads. All right, now these don't have a tapered shaft to the ball joint. It's just got a cup that seats it up here. So these aren't as difficult as some, but just give it a little tap and help it out of there. And take the nut off, and away we go. Okay, this is the hardest part about doing this job on this particular vehicle, all right? This is just some water up here that's not leaking. It's raining on the way over here. But anyway, we cannot get this out because the CV shaft is in the way. So we're going to have to take this CV shaft out of the hub. If you have an older BMW like, I don't know, E70 X5, you can finagle these out. This newer design, they do not leave enough space to get this out. So let's get this CV axle out of the hub. All right, this can be a little bit tricky, so let's pay attention here. This is a 17 millimeter hex, all right? Pretty uncommon to have one this large here. That's what she said. Anyway, this is the 17 millimeter Allen that we're going to put on here and break this loose, and let me show you how I do that. Okay, with our Allen socket on there, this is 1/2-inch drive. Put a punch in between the fins of the rotor here, a little towel here to protect the caliper, and that just holds it in place for you. All right, you're probably gonna have to use a breaker bar to bust this loose, but I recommend taking this out by hand because I'll show you what's behind here. There is a spring on this bolt with a O-ring here that you don't want to lose, so just take this out by hand and then gently pull it out. All right, then you can see inside there is the CV shaft way back in there. Let's just go ahead and pull this thing out and kind of just set it towards the upper portion of the hub. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go back to this E20 bolt right here, and let's pull this guy out. All right, as you get towards the end there, make sure that you capture your captive nut. Don't let that fall on your face. Now feel free to use a impact, but if you do, you're going to need a swivel attachment. You got too much in the way here. I'm just going to work this thing out the rest of the way. Voila. All right, let's work our new one in here. This axle does not like to stay up, so I'm probably going to have to hold this up with one hand and get this guy in here with the other. All right, a bit of a tight fit here. Let's use a hammer to knock this bushing in up into place. All right, should be able to get the bolt in now. All right, holding the captive nut, get it started. See how this feels here. Okay, I know that that's where it's at tight, but we don't want to do that right now. Let's leave this thing a little loose. So we're not going to put a final torque on this thing till the end. All right, then we can put our nut back on here. This is a nylock nut. I just put some blue Loctite back on this thing just to make doubly sure here. Okay, the ball joint nut we can go ahead and torque all the way down. So let's do that. All right, let's get the axle shaft back in. Unlike traditional CV shafts where you have splines sticking out here with a nut, this has got teeth on it. And it's vitally important that you line these teeth up. It can go in any direction. You don't want them. You want them to fit into each other, right? You don't want the peaks touching the peaks. You want the peak touching a valley, so to speak. So you might have to turn the rotor around a little bit, whatever. But let's line that up. When you have it lined up, you can just feel it. All right, and we'll leave it sit right there, and we'll get that bolt back in. All right, I've got the rotor pinned once again. Okay, so pause here and go do your other side. Remember to not torque this bolt in here, okay? Don't do that yet. Just put it in loose or almost tight. All right, do the other side and we'll get back with the next step. Okay, the next step is a annoying one, okay, but it's important. You need to put the wheels back on and set the vehicle back down. It needs to be sitting on its own weight. You don't want to torque that bushing with it in the air because the wheel is a little bit lower, and when it sits back down, it can torsion twist that bushing and it'll fail prematurely. Okay, after you torque these bolts down here, those E20 bolts on the bushing, raise your vehicle back up. We are on the home stretch now. We're gonna get these brackets back on. Let's get an 18 millimeter. All right, now let's get the belly pans back on. Okay, the belly pans are back on. The easiest way to do that is do the two side ones first and just start some screws and then put the center one in and then go around and get all of your 8 millimeter screws in. There's a whole bunch of them just all over the place. All right, that pretty much wraps up the job, but let's talk about these bushings real quick. So a lot of these European cars, when you goose the brake pedal, you hear a clunk, and that's because this bushing is going bad and this arm is moving around and clunking against the front of your car under the frame there. So years ago, they used to have just some poly or some rubber bushings in here. We're having so many problems, the engineer says, hey, we can over-engineer this. So what they did is they made some bushings that are hydraulic, they're fluid filled. And this is only a 2019 vehicle, and this thing was already clunking, and the driver's side one was leaking. This is the passenger side one. It's not too bad. It's got some dry rot down there. You can see where it's starting to separate, but eventually that's going to cause a crack and leak the hydraulic fluid out of here. Anyway, I think they made it worse, quite honestly, by putting in these hydraulic bushings, but hey, it is what it is. Hey, that's it. Thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, put a comment down below if you want to say something. It's all good. Thanks for watching once again. I'll catch you next time.